Most agencies lose the pitch before they ever start. Not because their offer is bad, not because the pricing is wrong, and not because the prospect isn't qualified. They lose it, frankly, in the first 5 minutes of the call. Because instead of taking control, instead of establishing authority, instead of creating agreement, they start pitching and making themselves a peer or feeling desperate. And once you position yourself as a peer instead of as an authority, you've already lost all power in the conversation. In this video, I'm going to show you how to start a sales conversation in a way that makes your prospects naturally agree with you before you ever start talking about direction or your services. So let's talk about why prospects are lost early. So what agencies are often doing is they start to explain what it is that they do. They believe that they are needing to explain effectively why they're the best thing since sliced bread. And they are trying to build rapport, but not in a meaningful way, or they will let the prospects control the tone of the conversation. They'll ask questions, they will try to fully mimic the other person, and they will sound eager to make the sale rather than actually feeling structured. But here's the thing that's incredibly important. If you feel like a peer, you're going to get peer pricing. You cannot and you shouldn't be. The reality is that people tend to buy from someone that already has something, knowledge, expertise, experience, something that they need to acquire. And a premium requires authority. You shouldn't be a peer in that scenario. So step one of this is that you need to take control of the frame. So you're the one that should be establishing the rules of the conversation. And I don't want you to do it aggressively. You should still do it clearly. So here's an example of it. So, hey, John, Vanessa, whatever, we've got 45 minutes on the schedule today. Does that still work for you? And then the follow-up, presumably they say yes. So here's how I generally like to structure this conversation. Blank. Is that okay with you? Then, all right, so here's the next step. So assuming that this happens, this would be our next step in the conversation. Does that sound good? And getting buy-in. So here's a couple of things. One, you're creating them getting used to saying yes to you. Little trick, kind of hack-oriented thing. The thing that's most important though, it actually creates that you're the one in control. You're the one creating structure, which creates authority. When someone else is in control, people tend to feel safer. The reality is, even for control freaks like myself, when we're buying a service, what we want to know is someone else is actually able to manage this piece without our involvement. And I'm hiring someone, I'm bringing someone on to take care of something that they innately know how to do, that they are the better woman or man in this scenario. And why does this actually matter? Because people only pay a premium to someone that has greater insight, greater clarity, and who ultimately also feels aspirational. If you feel like a vendor or a peer, you're gonna be treated like one. So even if you're successful, it is not going to be a good experience for you or for them, because the reality is that they're going to feel like they need to control it, and they will. And then you're going to feel like you're being micromanaged because you are. And it all happened because of the way that you established the relationship from the very beginning. You are the person that has the experience here. You're the one that should be guiding this conversation. It would be very akin to walking into a doctor's office and them not walking you around the office and then weighing you in and checking your blood pressure, doing all the things, and then asking you some questions about what's going on. They're in control. And you're following their control because ultimately they're the ones that are the expert. But if you went in and they're like, no, let's not do that. We're going to actually do this. You're going to run this blood panel. You're going to do this thing. Are you going to feel safe? I mean, I sure wouldn't. And I'm a bit of a nerdy person and probably maybe dabble a little bit too much in WebMD. So now step two, we need to get those early yeses. So a simple agreement is actually incredibly useful. So in the examples that I was sharing earlier, is that timeline work for you? Is that fair? Does this align what you're looking to solve? Is this kind of direction? It's like you're asking for these small yeses. As you're getting these small yeses, you're not doing so in a way that is manipulative. You're actually doing it in a way that allows for you to establish the way that you're going to work with each other, the directionality of where things are going. And when you're allowing for these yeses to actually be the aligned condition, it actually creates that agreement that ultimately builds momentum. And so it's a structural piece that actually is incredibly useful, even as I mentioned, a little bit of a hack that gets them into the mood of doing this, but it actually meaningfully creates momentum, and it's an incredibly useful thing for you. So what are most agencies doing wrong? And if any of these actually sound like you completely understand, this is your opportunity to change things over a bit. They too quickly jump into explaining their capabilities. Here's what we do, and here's why we're amazing. They are over explaining or over answer every question that is asked. Because you feel nervous, You end up over articulating the things that are going on. And so you then end up trying to impress instead of diagnose what's going on. And so you're just trying, like you end up being and feeling like you're kind of peacocking the relationship, which is why I believe most agency owners do not like sales. And then you're selling the features instead of actually selling the outcome. And so if this does sound like you, what you need to do, establish control, establish authority first. Then you get agreement of the direction, the problem, the solution second. And then you can now go ahead and pitch your agency of what it is that you do and how exactly you fit into their problem and into their objective. You're just a part of their story, hopefully an important one, but a part of their story. And you need to be able to slot yourself in to that story of exactly what's going on. And so what ends up happening when this is done really well, prospects naturally relax because they feel like someone else here is frankly the adult of the room, and someone else is going to manage the things that are going on. Someone else can actually fully take on this responsibility of making this happen, which immediately causes a drop in resistance for them, allowing for you to maintain authority throughout the sales process and in delivery, which changes the entire dynamic of how the relationship continues to go in the future, the amount of little give-me's and freebies and things that you're needing to do, the way that you're actually able to manage the actual process, the review process, the direction, the creative, all the things, maintaining that authority when they feel like someone is clear on what it is that they do, that they are clear on how exactly they go about it. Objections decrease because someone else is the expert in the room. I'm sure that you may, an example, bringing back to the doctor example, that if you're in the doctor's office and you're relying on them, you may ask questions. I'm sure you do, and you probably should, but you're not questioning them. You're giving additional context. You're wanting to make sure that you are clear of the direction that's going on and what is the next step of what's happening so that you feel comfortable. And then it makes pricing a whole lot easier when you do this incredibly well because they've now agreed with you before you've ever sold them on anything. Here's the direction, here's a person that I trust, here's a person that has the experience, that has the expertise, and now it makes it so much easier for them to feel comfortable signing on the dotted line. If you lose prospects early, it's rarely about your sales pitch or offer. It's about your positioning in the first 5 minutes. But even when you take control of the frame, most agencies still make one critical mistake during discovery. In the next video, I'll break down why agencies struggle to tailor their sales conversation on the spot and how to diagnose before you try to sell. Go watch that next because once you control the frame, the next skill is precision.